Hey, deserving listeners, 90 Day Fiancé. Let's watch.
God. Oh my God.
It's just not exactly what I 100% expected us doing today.
That was such an awkward date. Stephanie, good to see you again.
Yes.
All right, interesting. I didn't expect to see Stephanie on this show, although is she coming up on the Single Life? Not quite sure. So they're reviewing that old scene, which I remember when I saw it, thinking that Stephanie made total sense. It sounded like she didn't know before sitting down what they were going to be doing in there. And, it's a pretty big ask to, on a first date or early on, in front of the cameras, to get naked and to, in front of everyone, have all this contact, especially given that for Stephanie, I think she wanted to move more slowly in that arena. So, yeah, I guess we're going to hear from Stephanie about this.
You look so uncomfortable. What do you remember about it?
I don't think I was really that uncomfortable. I was more so confused because it is quite possibly like the most random date I've ever been on.
So it's a little interesting. She's saying, I don't think I was uncomfortable. It was more I was confused. Okay. Now, this, people frequently do this. They'll distance themselves from vulnerable things like uncomfortable or hurt or scared, and they're more comfortable with less vulnerable emotional admissions like, I was just confused. Because I don't think that, I think she absolutely was uncomfortable, and she has every right to be uncomfortable. I was uncomfortable watching it. So, of course I don't know. Now, according to her, she was confused. But I think she was also confused. I don't think she's lying, but it's interesting that she, I think, is having a hard time admitting that she was uncomfortable. Maybe she just feels exposed being on the show or something. I don't know.
And, I don't really have any issues with nudity. I am kind of an exhibitionist myself.
Yeah. Because a lot of people thought you were kind of prudish.
Yeah, and but just the fact that it was like the first time I was ever touching her touching me in that setting, it felt a little bit weird. Again,
that sounds like uncomfortable, doesn't it? I was confused. I was weird. It sounds like the word that Sean used, uncomfortable, would be a great word for that. It's interesting also that maybe she's distancing herself from the word uncomfortable. I don't know if she is, but if she is distancing herself from the word uncomfortable, she might be saying maybe she's reacting to how people reacted to her. Because if I remember right, the discourse around her, the internet discourse around her, was that she portrayed herself, and I guess on the show they showed this as well, as someone who was very out there online. She was very out there with sexual talk. And then when she landed on the plane in Australia with Erika, that she was, using Sean's word, a prude, which is totally fine. She, in person, she just wanted to move slowly. Now, what a lot of people were saying was that Stephanie wasn't actually gay or bisexual. We can't know that from any of the information on the show. It's possible, but, people tend to accuse people, particularly bisexual people, of not actually being bisexual in all variety of ways. There's all sorts of weird oppression on that. So I didn't participate, and I think I commented on how we should just say we don't know, and you really shouldn't be involving yourself in that kind of talk, because it's an example of an oppressive voice to particularly bisexual people. But anyway, so yeah, I think the discourse around it was she's fake, she's not really into Erika, all that kind of thing. And maybe she's like, well, I don't want to say I was uncomfortable, because that would imply that I wasn't romantically attracted, sexually attracted to Erika, which will get me all that hate from the internet. I wonder if that was what was happening. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments.
broke in half. And also my mold actually got stuck on my chest because I have baby hairs all over my body. And so the mold clung to the hairs on my chest. So we actually had to have the help of everybody at the studio to take it off of me. And I got like a full chest waxing at the end.
Ow. I didn't think about that. That sounds like a design flaw, and she can't be the only one that happened to. So, ouch.
Oh my God.
It was very uncomfortable.
We learned from your 90-day diaries that you have been celibate for quite a while. When you say you've been celibate for quite a while, how long is quite a while?
Wait, there's a 90-day diary thing too? Do I have to watch that? I will say that the Bears All series has a lot more data for me to comment on. You know, there's Sean asks good questions. Does the diaries show also have good stuff? Anyway, so I didn't know this. Sean is saying that according to the diaries, Stephanie was disclosing that she has been celibate for a long time, and she's asking her about it.
I've been celibate for 2.5 years.
2.5 years.
But it's been a really amazing time, actually.
Not tough. You call it amazing. That's
amazing.
Interesting.
Yeah, I totally recommend celibacy to anybody who's struggling with self-love or struggling with their relationship with sex or not enjoying sex.
Yeah.
So I wonder which one, if not all of them, Stephanie is identifying for herself. And good for her that if this was a healthy move, that for her, she's saying that she, you know, refrained from sexual activity with other people for 2.5 years because she was, maybe she's saying, struggling with self-love, maybe because of relationship problems. Maybe we'll get more detail.
Evaluate your needs.
Who was the last person?
The last person I had sex with was actually my Australian ex-boyfriend that I dated before I dated Erika. So I never had sex with Erika. And so I had sex with him before I had even gotten into a relationship with Erika.
All right, that's interesting. We didn't know that. I don't know if that means anything to us, but I could absolutely see that being the case because I mean, who knows, but it seemed like as soon as she landed on the plane, like they had that first date where they were at that cafe and Stephanie was concerned about Erika having the dating app on her phone. And Erika was like, I'm just socializing, you know, and there was that whole, and Erika walked off and Stephanie was like, I'm done. I think that was the first day, or at least maybe the second day. So, and anyway, it also seemed like Stephanie wanted to take that part of their relationship very slow. It's an interesting detail.
You can say whatever you want.
Okay, I just kind of felt like I would dead fish it the whole time, and it was just like, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Roll over, read a book, go to sleep. It was very clinical, and there was no romance.
Did he know that? Did he know you were not satisfied?
I mean, he must have.
That's an interesting, really great question from Sean, very astute, that she's just, now I don't know what to say about this other than I guess it's just more details about Stephanie's life. She's saying that before Erika, she had a boyfriend for a year or so in Australia, and they had sex 4 times, she said, and every time it wasn't great, and she said she just laid there, and he, you know, didn't seem to be interested in her enjoying it. And Sean asks, did you tell him? Did he know? And Stephanie says he must have. Okay. So we often use this show as a jumping off point. It is common for people, and there is a gender aspect to it that I might get into, but we have so much sex negativity. I don't know about Australia, but in my culture in the United States, we have a lot of sex negativity and a lot of mixed messages, particularly to young people. And I would categorize Stephanie, particularly back then, as a younger, she was I think she's late 20s now, mid 20s. Anyway, and it's getting better to some extent, but it's still pretty bad. And you have a lot of people who they don't know it's okay to assert themselves. They don't know how to assert themselves. They don't even know what good sex involves. given the education system, given the internet communication, given the messages that are given to us from media and from movies and TV shows, and you can be a sexually active person as an adult and not understand that you deserve to enjoy yourself. Now, you're not necessarily always going to be enjoying yourself, but that you deserve to have the sex that you want. And it might take a while to explore what that exactly looks like. And it might even take a long time to explore that with a new partner, every new partner, and you come together in different ways. You fit together in different ways, if you will, emotionally and physically. And so I don't know if Stephanie has that issue. I really have no idea, but there's that problem. And then we also socialize by gender, where often a message is given to women that they're not supposed to enjoy sex and they're supposed to be there to serve the man if it's heterosexual. And we give a message to men that they're not supposed to ask. They're just supposed to assert themselves and be the alpha. And they're supposed to, take control, and they're supposed to just know what to do, when the only way to know what to do is if you ask nicely and say, did you like that? Is there something else you want? And you can run into complications even if you do that, because you could ask and the person could be so ashamed of their bodies and their sexuality and so shy that they don't even know how to answer that question. And so I don't know what sort of problems Stephanie ran into, but at the very least, it looks like there wasn't communication between Stephanie and her boyfriend around this issue, and Sean is illuminating that. That's what it looks like.
Like, all right, I'm gonna go to the other room and watch golf. And I was like, all right, cool, bye.
Do you think you and Erika would have been intimate if you had not had that bad experience?
I wonder that sometimes, but when I think of how much we were fighting,
yeah,
and like how displeased she.
Right, absolutely. That was my impression, was that they were fighting so much right from the beginning. I mean, it was intense. Not as intense as maybe some other couples, but it was pretty intense, that it would be hard for the two of them to feel up for it. Now, some people, they can push past conflict and still have physical intimacy. But some people, those things are very much connected. And anyway, so that was my impression.
Between the two of you lacked that intimacy that she wanted. It seems like, was the other guy to blame, or was it he was just kind of like the last straw?
There were so many problems with me and Erika. So when people ask, like, what's like that one thing that did it? I'm like, listen, it was a recipe, and there were several ingredients.
And I don't know, because I only saw what the show deemed to show us, and so I have no idea. But the way that it looked to me was that Stephanie has relational traumas that were triggered by Erika involuntarily. She didn't know she was triggering. And Stephanie would get very hurt and would feel hurt, in a big way, and then would have a hard time communicating about that in a way that was effective to Erika. Erika would get confused or defensive or something, and then Stephanie would feel even more hurt, and then Stephanie would get angry and hostile and would accuse Erika of things or come across with an uncaring tone. Like the app on the phone is a perfect example. Erika claims, and I kind of believe her, but who knows, that she had the dating app on her phone, but it was a socializing app as well. Like Tinder, for example, I think is, it's purely for dating, but there are other quote unquote dating apps that are also used to meet friends or to network with people. And that's what she was saying, was that she used this app, like, is it Plenty of Fish, or there's other dating apps that, I don't know what the percentage, but there's a percentage of activity that goes on there that's friends or networking and not dating oriented. And so it seemed like maybe that was what was going on with Erika. And so she was on her phone. Stephanie saw, dating app, triggers her, which is normal. How do you communicate that, right? A more differentiated way to say is like, hey, I saw a dating app on your phone. I don't know what that means. I trust you, but could you just tell me what, I don't want to invade your space, but could you just tell me why you have the dating app? Are you dating other people, or what was going on there? You know, question mark. It's okay to ask, okay to have those feelings. I'm sure Eric, if Eric given the chance, would have said, "Oh my God, sorry, no, I just use it to network," which is kind of what she did. But Eric or Stephanie was already accusatory, already had tone, and so Erika was kind of on her heels about that, and Erika felt like, why am I being accused of something that I haven't done, and why do you have this paternalistic tone with me as if I'm in trouble when I've done nothing wrong? If you just listen to me, you know. Erika got, I think, if Erika was telling the truth, which we don't know, but if she was, then she was justifiably defensive and hurt and angry of like, why are you yelling at me? I didn't do anything wrong. And then Stephanie became more and more hurt, and she started to, I remember she's like, this was a mistake, or, you know, this kind of talk. And then Erika was hurt and walked off, and, you know, Erika was pretty rattled by that. So I think that's a microcosm of what their relationship problem was. There was just a repeating of that dynamic throughout, you know, like when they went to the party and the ex-boyfriend was there with Erika. If we believe Erika, she doesn't want to be with her ex-boyfriend or a friend with benefits guy or whatever, but it triggered Stephanie. She had a big reaction. She didn't communicate it effectively to Erika. Erika got distancing. That triggered Stephanie even more. There was hostility, you know, and it just became this repetitive thing between the two of them. All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.